So we've decided to go ahead and do this painting from scratch as a full-scale finished acrylic painting. And so that way you oil painter and your acrylic painter can have the same joy of learning all the great things that this painting has to offer. This is a 20 by 24, it's a little larger than normal than we use here. It's on a stretched canvas, and I pre-tinted the canvas. You can see it's sort of that charcoal white, charcoal gray. And last week we left off just underpainting, which is normal procedure. We're using our standard palette that we normally use, and now we're going to move on. And we left off on our last show just underpainting the water. We got that done. Now we're going to go back in. We're going to put in the clouds. We're going to highlight the mountains. Let's get right to it. So now we're going to take our number 6 bristle brush. And I like a bristle brush for this because you can scrub with it. And you're going to take a little bit of gesso and just a little tint of orange. Now, whenever you put these kind of clouds in, you never want to really use pure white. Now, you know, you hear that all the time. Well, we don't want to use pure white. Well, there's only rare occasions when pure white is really all that useful. And we'll do a little of that on this painting, but usually you want to tint your white so it's not so chalky looking. So let's look over here real quick at see the clouds. We're just going to put a few wispy clouds, maybe some that kind of go over the edge of the mountain back here. Then we'll highlight the mountains. We might put a little fog and mist in here. So what you do is you take your color. You don't put much on your brush. I'm going to scoot my dabble board out here so I can. So you just take it like this, overhand hold, and you start scrubbing. Now it's a little dry, so put just a little more moisture in with that. If you get too much paint, not enough moisture, it won't blend into the background very well. So you do this and you kind of roll your brush. And once you kind of get your shape, now that looks kind of goofy, but as you develop it, you see how you kind of feather and you blend it and you start blending it out to where it becomes more of a natural shape of a cloud. And you just do this little dry brush blend at the base of it. See, so it becomes more of a natural looking cloud. This is the blending technique for acrylic versus oil. Well, you could use the same technique in oil too, but normally in acrylic, you have a dry background to start off with. So you almost always have to do what's called a wet on dry blend, which is what we're doing now. Put the color on, shape your cloud quickly, and then turn your brush kind of more on the side so you can blend it into the underpainting, which in this case is the blue-gray sky. And you just kind of come on through here and make you a nice composition of the clouds. Pretty exciting. By the way, you see these little hairs and things in here? Some of that drives some of you crazy. I want to show you something real quick while I'm thinking about it. You can take a little piece of sandpaper or sanding block, anything, even when this is dry, and you can just take it and lightly rub over like this, and those come right off. They'll just pop right off. If they're in a spot of the painting where they're bugging you, and you want to get those off, just don't be afraid to do that, folks. A lot of you are a little timid to that. As long as you're careful, you can't hurt it. Right there where that one was bugging me a little, so I just got rid of it. Now put my cloud back in there, and boom, we're on our way. Now I want you to keep noting it's an overhand hold. It's not a pencil hold, because if you do a pencil hold, most of you make a little circle, and you lose that nice soft ability to blend there by using the side of the brush. So just keep coming on across here. A little touch of water, a little touch of white, a touch of orange. And let's see, I don't want to get too busy here. I think I want to put just a little bit right up through here. Right up to that mountain, right up through there. Let's come back over here real quick. We'll have some kind of overlap in this mountain coming off the canvas. Because up in the mountains, I don't know if many of you spent much time in the mountains, but I spent a lifetime journeying. I don't live in the mountain area. I live in the plains of Oklahoma, although we have hills. We don't have mountains. So I would make regular trips up to, the Tetons and up in the Yellowstone area and Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado to study the mountains. I love the mountains. But see, you just want some soft clouds. You don't want these to compete with the rest of the paint. They're just designed to give you a little bit of a, softness to and make it not look so plain. Now, real quickly while we're doing this technique, right across this area right here, I want to put a low-hanging mist. So while we got this technique going and your hands are going, come down here, a little bit of white, take a little bit of blue and a touch of purple, and you create this sort of a bluish purple haze. Now this is called dry brush blending. Just a little more blue in it. And if you get it too watery, it doesn't work. So that's why you see me wiping my brush off there. See, I'm just loading in a little bit. And I'm going to go in a circular motion as well here. And you create a little soft haze across the background here. See, I'm going in a circle. Then you take the cream, kind of soften it a little. That creates that little hazy mist. Really looks good in there. And then when we finish putting in the rest of our trees and things, it creates a sort of a softer, lighter area back there for them to contrast against. And this is common. I mean, you see this, especially in the Tetons. If you've never been to the Grand Tetons, folks, you need to go. Because they have pullouts all along them for photographers, especially to get up and just, you can just set your camera up there, and every 2 or 3 minutes, I mean, they change because the clouds come in and out, the sun comes in and out, they change in color and tone and value and hue all day long. It's just a blast to go out there and watch how quickly they change. Now I'm coming back in through here. I think it's a little stronger there. Make sure you feather this up into the mountain though, so that you can get a nice soft blend. You don't want to see any edges. You don't want to see any hard lines. You can have areas that are a little stronger than others. That's no problem, but you just don't want any edges. And you'll see why in a minute. This is so important. You get this nice hazy mist in here. All right. Now, once you get this in, stand back. Oh yeah, that looks great. Looks like a nice little fog coming along there. Maybe that little river stream meanders back in there. Okay, now the next challenge comes. This is the one that gives everybody heartburn. And I know that for a fact because, you know, this is almost 40 years for me now teaching these lessons, and I'm almost 30 years now on the program. I think one of the hardest challenging things to teach and to learn is how to do the mountains and the rock formations. And we got both of those in this painting, so you're going to get slammed on both of those fronts. But the light source is coming in from the right-hand side, so let's go here and look on this, the original. And you're not going to highlight the back two values because they're just distant, kind of hazy. That would just confuse too much. We'll put a little highlight on some, a little more on the others, and you can come back and put snow on them later if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. Now you just take the number 6 bristle brush, come down here to the palette, take a little white and the orange. That's what I always start my tinting with for these highlights. And you want to add its complement, which is a little touch of blue. Now I'm not sure if this is it, but you have to do some testing. So all I know is what's in it: the orange, the white, and the blue. Work that into my brush. I've got a test up here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to thin it down just a little so it'll slide nicely. Not too much. Alright, I'll notice where I'm holding my brush. Now, I'm going to take my brush like this, and I'm going to start making these nice little irregular shapes. To kind of suggest the movement of the the masses of the granite formations. You have to be very careful with this because what you don't want to do is get some really, just a lot of lines or a lot of squiggles that look like a bunch of snakes crawling around on your canvas. You got to have large what we call mass strokes that are just more mass oriented. Some are skinny lines. You need to leave your pockets of negative space. See the shadows I'm leaving in there? I come right here now. This would be a good spot to kind of connect into this. You want everything to sort of have some kind of connection. Oh, see, look, right there, automatically, I got a valley already cooking. Blend a little bit, see how it looks? Put in here. Got to pop in over there, a little highlight. And down this direction. Put that in here a little bit more. This would be called the face. I'll never forget when I used to skiing a lot when I was younger. Don't do it anymore because I'm kind of afraid to. But I got on one of these fronts of these mountains like this, skiing down up in New Mexico, and boy, it scared me to death because I didn't know if I was ever going to make it down alive. But it was fun, but it was scary, and so you got to have these masses as well as some skinny lines. See, your connectors are the little lines that kind of connect. See, this mass is connected to the rest of the mountain, or these skinnier lines, okay? Now, I put just a little more orange in this because I want to get just a little more warmth in it. I think I got just a little too white. Nothing serious, but, and by the way, everybody sees this a little differently. As long as it doesn't get too orange or anything just yet, just kind of, and as it comes down in through here, maybe it'll just sort of, see how cool that looks? And that's just an amazing effect. Maybe a little over here. Sometimes you just leave big areas. The mistake a lot of us make, we see a big area like this and we try to fill it up with something. That's when you get really frustrated with yourself, and then you overwork it and you get really mad and think, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Well, remember that there's an old saying in the art world, it's called less is more. You've heard that in a lot of things in life. The more you work on something, sometimes the worse it gets. I mean, let's face it. You know, if you're sitting there at Thanksgiving dinner and you're just eating too much, well, just remember, less is more. It was full for. I mean, just, you gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. I love that little song by Kenny Rogers, know when to quit. And sometimes it's hard. You need someone to slap your hand. Well, most of us don't have that, so you gotta discipline yourself to know when enough is enough. So I'm going to leave this nice pocket here. I like that. I like this in here. Then I'm going to have some trees over here. I'm not saying you can't come back later and add some things, but it's not necessary yet. But once you get your basic roughed-in mountain done, then you can go back in later and add brighter highlights. You can adjust, connect. Like right now, I'm going to quickly brighten this little spot up right here. Just feel like I need to do that because it is kind of in the front right there. I want to connect it to this right here a little bit. I like that little thing right there. I want just a little more mass right in the front here. Yeah, there we go. I'm liking that. I think I'm going to leave this for now. We may come back to put brighter highlights. We may decide to put snow in there, and that's an option that you have if you want to do that. All right, now we've got the clouds, the mist, and the highlights. So we're ready to proceed to the underpainting. So your next job, let's go over here to the steady painting, which is the finished oil painting, in a sense. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to block in the river or the stream. We'll block in the rock formations, and then we'll start blocking in some of the grasses. And it's just really, as most of you know, if you follow the program much or have taken lessons before, the first few things you do are just underpaint, just blocking things. It's kind of messy looking. So now we're going to go to the back to the number 6 bristle brush, and let's underpaint the stream. Now we'll just go back to this area right here where you've been working, and we'll just take your hooker screen, a little bit of turquoise deep, a little bit of your dioxazine purple there, and you can even put some umber in it. You just want it to be dark. There's no really thing you have to worry about here to just get it dark, but sort of on the dirty blue turquoise side, and just fill it in like this. And then, like I mentioned last week, you always make your streams, rivers, roads, pathways, things like that, always a little darker and wider than you want them to be because you lay stuff on top of them. So there's your basic layout. Remember, there's your ellipses, keeping it flat. This is the drop off for the little short waterfall. It's probably about 3 or 4 or 5 foot waterfall where you want it to be. Now you go back to that and you take your blue, mix out of the edge of this, add a little umber to it. You just go ahead and make a darker value underneath that, like that. So that sort of, this is where the water's going to fall over this little dark spot. So that could be a vertical stroke like this. Kind of scrub in some darks around it. Okay, that's good. So the water will come in here and it'll fall over here, and then of course we'll have rocks and things around it to help seep it, as well as the other rocks and boulders. Alright, so now we're making progress. And you've got to just play this game with me. This is the hardest part of teaching is underpainting, because you're looking at it, especially if you're a novice or kind of new at this, you're thinking, well, it looks terrible. And it does. I mean, it just does. And so you just got to trust the procedure and the process, and it works every time, I promise. Alright, now while we're letting that set up, let's block in our first little grassy meadow here. And I'm going to go ahead and take my number 10 bristle brush for this. And we used it last week to block in the water, if you remember. Rinse that out real good. Now, I'm going to go down here, working in the same spots. I don't even move area. I just stick right here. A little water in there. Take the hooker's green. And what I want to do is, now this is, by the way, I don't know what kind of late summer scene. And I like these mustardy colors. But what I'm going to do is take this dark green here. Actually, I forgot to put the burnt sienna. Put a little burnt sienna in it. And I want you to scrub it. See, I'm scrubbing it. It creates a sort of a real dark olive or dark army green. I'm scrubbing it in like that. So this is the hooker's green, a little bit of burnt sienna. Basically, that's what it is. Come right down to the water's edge. Just kind of scrub it in there. Now, while that's still wet, I want you to take a little bit of yellow and a touch of orange. And I want you to just kind of scrub it in like this and kind of tap it, blur it, blend it, just add some color to it. And just kind of model it through the painting. And you can even turn your brush sideways here. Just a second. Set on. You take your brush like this and just kind of push up. You've all seen me do this before. You create this little texture if you want. You got to throw the yellow and the orange on a little thick. So you just push it. And it makes a really nice little texture. Just like a little grass, like a little meadow sticking up there. That looks so cool. And it's fun too. I always wanted to be an artist ever since I was a kid. I mean, I keep remembering, someone asked me the other day, when did I start being an artist? I remember my first real interest was when I was in the 5th grade in Lincoln Elementary School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And my art teacher let me stay after class and watch him sculpt and paint. I was just fascinated with it. Now you see how it's just a little nice texture, some soft, earthy tones, some olive tones. As you come down in this area, it just gets a little darker. So all you do is you take the hooker's green and the burnt sienna, add a little purple to it. You want to get it a little darker. It's sort of, you might say, by the way, this is not necessarily a rule, so to speak, but it helps when you have a painting like this, if your corners are a little darker, they help to weight the painting down in the corner. So don't get it too light down here, because we're going to put the big boulders here. We need this dark background to work against. But you can still put a little color in it. I mean, you can't add color to it. You just don't want to go too far with it. Now, by the way, we are going to add highlights on this craft. Remember, we're still in the underpainting stage. Next week is when this painting really takes off a life and have a life of its own. So, going to get this all scrubbed in here. Just a little bit darker, just a little more purple. If you want to ever darken your green to a real deep tint, just put purple in it. And it makes it beautiful, almost a blackish green, which is really great. Okay, now see down here, I'm just kind of changing direction because the grass is a little taller and a little wilder here. Looks like that. There's a big boulder here, and I'm not too worried about that. I might mention this though. You're going to reflect this in the water. So when we're doing this, take your brush right down here in this corner, scrub this down in the water like this. I'm doing this using a horizontal stroke. We want this water real dark right in here, right along this edge. Because that's going to reflect some of those colors down in the water. Kind of go up and down a little bit, but mostly horizontal. And just kind of get some of those colors in there. I'm just having some fun playing with the texture here and looking at the different things going on. Okay. And obviously the whole spot there to kind of remind me where the rock goes. Okay, now we go to the other side. We'll do a similar thing over here. But this time we'll start with a little light because we know the light's coming in like this. It's going to hit this little hillside back here. So let's come in here like this and just throw it in yellow. You can put a little yellow green in there if you want to. Now I want to show you something that you have to be sure you do. Come along the back of the water back there so it has a place to turn. You want that little ridge right back there so the water, that's got to have a bank or a back to it. So put that on there. And just come down an inch or so. And go ahead and push this up while that's still wet. So that you can get that nice, soft, fuzzy edge there. Yeah, we're going to put some trees and things in there. Some of this will be hidden, of course. But you still want a soft edge. You'll hear, not just me, but most artists will talk about that a lot, that are teachers especially. But you want that soft edge. Because when you come back and layer, do other things, it's harder to work with a line that's underneath there than an edge. Okay? Now you just do what you did over here. You just start bringing in your darker greens with the burnt sienna, the hooker's green. You can throw a little orange in with it or yellow, anything you want to. It's just going to be a little bit lighter perhaps on this side. And see, I'm kind of doing that, and then I just push like this. And that blends the two together. It creates a nice value change. And it gives you a really good setup for this. Pretty exciting, really. And then, like I said, next week we'll get really serious about all the main components here. Let's get a little darker down on this corner right here. And how do we do that? We just take the hooker's green, add a little bit of purple. You can add a little sienna to warm it. As long as you're doing this in layers while it's still wet, you can get some really nice overlapping value changes. And at the same time, you want to scrub your reflection just like we did on the right side. So when you get this color in here, be sure that you blur some of that in the water. See, I'm just kind of pushing my brush upward. And then come along here, scrub it in the water. Because along this edge over here, we'll put rocks and some pebbles probably, broken logs or stick or something. We'll do something. Of course, there'll be a big boulder there. So the underpainting, again, is kind of scary if you haven't done it before, because you're thinking, how that kind of this look like anything? Well, I promise, folks, if you just trust me, you will see. All right, now, while that's setting up done, can't do much else to that. We can really go back here now and start putting in some of the smaller pine trees that are in the distance. And now you'll switch back to your number 4 bristle brush. You can actually use, and a lot of people prefer this. I might pull one out and show you. You can go to the number 2 chisel brush. I might do a little bit of both. So what we're going to do now is go back down here to your green files you were just using. Just work out the edge of it. Add a little white to it to lighten it. Add a little purple to it to gray it. And we want to create some soft grayish green tints for our distant pine trees. And they'll be starting probably right about in this area right here. Yeah, about right there. And see, then you just they're just very suggestive, but they're a little bit more detailed than the ones you did more. So you just make a little line and you make little smudges like this. Just little smudges. And go along here. And you just start blocking in a few little soft pine trees. And this is probably all we're going to get done in this session, folks. And then in our next session, we will really be able to make progress by getting our rocks in there and all the other things. But right now, if you can just get, that's too dark. Now, so you got to keep in true to the nature of this part of the painting in terms of value. So be sure that you don't get those too dark. So you just make a little line and just make little swishes to suggest pine trees. And remember, that's all you're obligated to do. Remember, as an artist, you only have one requirement. Get your viewer to understand what it is you're painting. That's why it's called impressionism, some things, because all you're responsible for is to getting your viewer to get their mind and their eyes set on what you want them to see. And then the human mind is smart enough to figure out the rest of it. Let your client or your viewer enjoy the journey. You don't have to put every little stroke in there. I mean, it's just not necessary. That's what we call it art. It's not a science. It's just let the imagination sometimes do part of the work. That's what I like about being an artist. I don't have to get everything in here. As long as it's done correctly, technically, you can just do a phenomenal amount of stuff with a painting like this. It's just so much fun. So we'll just get a few more of these trees across the back here. And then we're going to get some bigger ones. Now, next week there'll be some bigger ones that go in here too. But these are just your very distant ones. See, that's too dark already. So what am I going to do to fix that? Just add a little white to it, gray it down a little bit, knock down the value, and then you're back in business. You just can't have it too dark. Yeah, you can make it a little taller. Not that it's necessarily closer, but in any forest, you're going to have trees that are bigger than others. And just kind of go across here and just fill in some of this. Well, as usual, folks, man, I don't know where the time goes. I just know if we just started. But we're going to have a blast next week, really making some things happen. I hope you'll be able to come back and join us and watch this painting develop, because watching it start from beginning to end is really an experience, and you're going to learn a lot, I promise. So thank you for joining us again on another session of Paint Tips with Jerry Arnett. God bless you. Stay inspired and keep painting. I'll see you again, I promise, real soon, another session.